Hello, and welcome to another episode of BergenStages Television, our entertainment magazine here at Bergen Community College. I'm Jim Bumgardner, your host. And as many of you know, most of our shows tend to be about productions we have coming up here at the college, and we focus around performers that are in the show, kind of an advanced learning about the show and about the actors in it. But today, one of our guests inspired us to have this show about stage management. And to talk about what that job is. So please welcome our instigator to this, Anthony Moylans. Welcome to the show, Anthony. And Lila Knowles, welcome. Both of you stage managers. Yes. But coming from different directions. So we want to kind of talk about today what a stage manager is and what the responsibilities are. But before we get into that, I thought we'd get to know you guys a little bit better and how you got into this craft as well. So Lila, why don't we begin with you? Where did we get Lila Knowles?
Well, Lila Knowles, in theater at least, started in 2022 when I started volunteering for one of my sister's shows. And they liked me enough that they hired me, so I started doing some work there. But I was like, you know what, I'd like to learn a little more about this.
And where was that?
That was at American Theater of Actors in that building with the company ATMY.
Sure, yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it was fun, but I wanted to get some more proper experience, so I came to Bergen to study technical theater.
Cool. And you weren't acting in those shows, you were just backstage?
I was backstage,
crew.
yeah, I was helping move set pieces. I ended up helping with sound, miking children, and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And Anthony? How did we get Anthony?
So I went to a high school called Richard Park Senior High School, where I, in the fly of the moment, decided to audition for The Wiz, and got in.
Oh, cool.
It was my first show. Then I did Grease and Sister Act, and then after that I took a hiatus from theater. And then in 2022. I decided to get started at Bergen to do stuff, and took a bunch of general courses, and then intro to theater with Lee, and started auditioning for shows. My first show was Radium Girls.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Where I ended up moving, I want to say 80% of set pieces during transitions. And that really got me to enjoy the backstage work.
So Radium Girls was your very first show.
Yeah.
I feel like you've been here forever.
That was both of our first
That's
shows.
a good thing.
Yeah.
But I just really, that's just amazing. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that got me into the backstage work, and so when next season came along, I ended up helping out with Laramie Project. I was the costume assistant, then became second assistant stage manager, and then we had Man of La Mancha, where I was an actor in it. Following that was when I stage managed She Kills Monsters.
Cool. So you were an actor in it. You did some crew work too in
Man of La Mancha, yes.
Yeah,
I was also the second assistant stage manager as well.
I thought so too. And then your first stage management was?
For She Kills Monsters.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. So we've jumped into where you've done it at Bergen. What have you done here at Bergen, Lila, since you've been?
I was the second assistant stage manager for Radium Girls. Then I stage managed Laramie. Then I was the second ASM for The Mystery of Edwin Drood, and then I stage managed Nora. Yeah.
Wow, gosh, you guys, this seems like you've been doing this forever for me.
Yeah.
But when you don't do stage management, you guys always help in some capacity.
Yeah.
You're always working backstage, running crews, or acting, or directing, or something like that. So that's been kind of cool too. But both of you have different experience, because you're both alums. So congratulations, you graduated from Bergen. Way to go. So let's talk with Anthony. Were you thinking of being a theater major when you began, and then you changed your?
When I began, no. I was at the beginning thinking about my career path, and I was originally going to go towards what I went towards.
Which is?
I actually graduated the veterinary technician program here at Bergen, which very difficult to get into. They only accept 35 people a year. So starting here, I did not think I was prepared, ready for that sort of competition. But then a year afterwards, I was like, let's try it. And I got in my first attempt, and I graduated. And
your first year, you did take gen ed courses that would be required for it, so you made sure to cover some of the classes that you're taking would be accepted into the program, and then you applied to the program, got in it, and did it. Cool. So which is one way of your desire is not to be a professional stage manager. I don't think at this point.
At this point, who knows?
Not
At this
put
current
words in your
moment.
mouth. Yeah. See where it takes you. See
Yeah.
where the road takes. But I mean, you love that tech. You love working with animals, and that's so cool too. So that means you can come to Bergen, study something else, and still be able to work on
Yeah.
productions here at the college. And then now, Lila, you're in our AAS program, Technical Theater Program.
Yes, I am. I was.
Yes, you're a graduate. Yes. So what did that entail? What is that program all about?
Well, again, you get a lot of gen eds, but you get a lot of theater-focused classes, starting with like stagecraft and lighting, which is just a general understanding of like all the tools you need to build sets and helping build the sets. We also walk through like the different terminology of theater, you know, proscenium arch, plaster lines, center lines, all that.
Upstage, downstage.
Yep, all of that. You have to take classes like lighting and set design just to get an understanding. And like, it's nice because you get to be very well-rounded in all the different aspects. So you kind of, even if you don't want to be in that department, you have to, as a stage manager, you have to communicate with all the different designers of the program. So, you know, it's nice that you can kind of be in their head a little bit, and it helps with communication.
Understand some of the terminologies and what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Oh, I can explain a little bit.
Yeah,
good,
and
good.
going into what has to make that happen.
Yeah. So just a lot about technical classes.
Yeah.
Set design, lighting design. Well, you took drafting.
Yes, I
Yeah,
took drafting and
well.
set design, yeah.
Good.
Theater production workshop or directing for the stage. I chose directing for the stage. There's also theater performance and production, which is like a second level of stagecraft where you get into like script analysis and like you don't actually design a show, or you don't actually put on a show, but you get to design a show and a concept for it, which is really nice.
Kind of putting all this together into the tech part of it.
Yeah.
And then you also did an internship. You were
Yes,
at
I
Montclair
did.
State doing
I
an
was.
internship
It was
there,
really
too.
nice.
Good. And that experience gives you, one, an introduction to Montclair, if that's a program that you want to go to, but also their way of doing things.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like every college does it differently. So it was nice to get a taste of like how they run their shows versus how we run our shows. And it's like not one isn't better than the other. It's just different, you know, because they have different stages. So there's different like pros and cons.
Right, yeah.
And things they have to
not
work
only every
around.
college, but every theater has a way of doing it. So it's just kind of being, I guess, open to what happens when you
Yeah,
get there.
you gotta adapt.
Right, there's the magic word, adapting to whatever the situation is. Cool. And you will be going to Montclair.
I will,
So
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you'll
starting
get a
the fall.
BFA from Montclair. And future plans are?
Right now, I'm somewhere between stage management, sound, and scenic or prop design.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you'll be studying all that and deciding where you want to focus once you get out.
Yeah.
But you're able to do all of them too.
Exactly.
So depending on what the theater needs or job
Yeah,
is out there.
I will wear many hats.
And I think that's great. A good general practitioner of theater that you're able to jump into. And you can direct. I mean, you've done some directing as well. And now you also work outside. Ever since I've known you, you've been working outside on other projects.
Yes.
What are some of the other projects you've done?
I'm currently working on a production of Bring It On as the A1, which is exciting.
And A1 is?
An A1 is the person who runs all of, they control the microphones. So I have to turn people up for certain scenes and make sure their mics aren't on for other scenes, and tweak the mics. Like if the gain is off, I have to make sure that there's no feedback from their microphones. I also have to organize the microphones and re-battery them, stuff like that.
Cool.
And assist with I have to help the A2, which is my assistant, do all of that as well.
And you learned that from a different theater, did you?
I learned that from ATMY, my favorite job outside of Bergen. Yeah, I started as a stagehand and then worked my way up to assistant sound person, and now I'm the main sound person.
Good, that's cool. And when you were in high school, you didn't do any backstage stuff. Everything was acting.
yeah.
So coming here, your introduction to it was through Lee, and then being on the job training there. So when we've talked about ASM, second ASM, and SMs there, and so I just kind of want to talk about all those different jobs. But when you heard that you were going to, can you explain what a stage manager is? Just for someone that's watching the show and goes, I just thought there were actors and directors in the theater. What's a stage manager? How do you begin to define that?
So I think the basic way to explain what a stage manager is that once it becomes tech week for a show, they're the person who's in charge. Like once the show actually starts, director's hat is off, and now it's just stage manager who's running everything. So it's a good amount of responsibility because you have to make sure you're on top of everything and know the show inside and out. In case if something goes wrong, you got to quickly be able to fix things on the spot.
Right.
But I think it's a lot of just trying to find phrasing. It's a whole bunch of different things.
Well, let me jump before that, too, because
Yeah.
that's Tech Week, but you have to do stuff from the beginning.
Yeah.
Of,
So
once you get the cast together.
you in a way you kind of are an actor. You know, it's funny. Stage managers are the only other people in Actors Equity.
For a reason.
Because even though you're not on stage, you are one with the show. You have to understand all the blocking and write it down for all the actors because they're too busy like trying to focus
And
on the
again,
feeling.
for our novices, what is blocking?
Blocking is where everyone steps on stage. So if Bill crosses from stage left to stage right on this line, you got to write that down.
So the director's giving these blocking notes,
Yes.
and you're writing them down. Why are you writing them down?
So that we have the entire script. So when someone says, I don't know where I'm supposed to go because I missed last week, I can say, you walk from here to there and then turn around and do a little spin.
Good. Exactly. So you write these blocking notes. So you're at every single rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every single one.
Writing down all the rehearsals. You also come to production meetings?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what happens at a production meeting?
So a production meeting is where you have all the designers, the director, if there's an assistant director, the stage manager, and anyone else who's generally like involved in the specific production. They sit down, have a meeting about how everything's going production-wise. So like the sound person will be like, oh, we'll have these new sound cues. The set designer will be like, this is how the set is going along. This is our time frame. The lighting designer will be like, oh, I have these ideas for how we're going to do the lighting. Stage manager, if they have any like questions or anything coming up. The director being like, okay, well, this is what we need.
Right.
This is what I'd like to have done by this point in the rehearsal process.
So now, not only, like Lila was saying, you're one of the actors, now you're one of the production team.
Yep.
So you wear both hats at the same time. So now everybody's turning to you going, now what color gloves do they want? What color,
Exactly.
how long is the dress? Do we need a wig? All those kind of things, and you're there to kind of answer that because you were at rehearsals.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can answer it. The director's at this production meeting as well, but you're there because you took notes throughout the whole time there. So I know as much as, I loved being a stage manager when I stage managed, so it's just, this is one of my favorite topics, so I'm so glad you thought about talking about this show there. So, just kind of getting to where we are at this point, we're there at the rehearsals, we're writing down the blocking where everybody's going, and everybody knows where they're supposed to be moving, as the director has said. You've gone to production meetings so that you know the set's getting built, costumes are getting made, and all those kind of things. What else do you do?
You take attendance. You call people when they don't show up on time.
Now, we hope in the professional world you never have to do that. We
Yeah.
hope that in the professional world they're going to be on time and be where they need to be.
Yeah.
But of course, in schools and volunteer theater,
Yeah.
it's sometimes
People
hard.
have lives and there's traffic and all those things.
Lives and
and
traffic.
you just want to make sure they're on their way safe and sound.
Yeah.
You also take line notes, so when an actor does not say the right line, you have to make sure that you write probably in a separate script, like you're highlighting those lines and saying this was not said right or in the wrong order.
Cool. So along the way, you've done all this blocking, but then they're going to be off book. They're going to have
Yeah.
memorized it, hopefully pretty well, but they're going to kind of paraphrase, and you take notes
Yeah.
along that way. And then what do you do with those? Once you've done that, what do you do with those notes that you take?
We have to make sure we like tell the actors what happened, like what they did wrong and anything. So then we can make sure that they keep their lines as close to the book as possible because we don't want to change what the playwright wrote.
The director's intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's a simpler show, you can just at the end of the rehearsal go over it with them in person, but sometimes if it's a larger show, you got to type it up and send it out in an email.
With so many actors that you have, that's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
The more actors you have, the more notes you have to get, the more blocking that you're going to get, more people you have to keep up with.
Yep.
What a crazy job you guys want to get into. So we're going to take a very short break and come back and talk about more in details what a stage manager does and why that would be a career choice. So you think about that. We're going to take a quick break, but come right back and we'll learn more from Lila and Anthony about stage management.
Why come to Bergen? Our Bergen community spans far and wide. Throughout Bergen County, the state of New Jersey, and, in a very real way, the world. From alumni and local residents looking for ways to become part of our Bergen community, the college offers a variety of opportunities, such as Anna Maria Saccone Theater. Students also choose Bergen because it provides students with a well-rounded educational experience and affordable tuition. No matter where you want to go, Bergen will help you get there.
Once there was a boy who did the same thing again and again. One day, he was told he had autism. He got help and slowly learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Hello and welcome back to BergenStages Television. Today we have a special episode talking about stage management with Anthony and Lila. So welcome back. Welcome back, guys. So we were talking about all the jobs that a stage manager is responsible for in doing a show. Do you like stage management? It's so much stuff. Do you enjoy it?
You go first.
We're both like, ooh. I truly love it. It's such a rewarding thing to be able to like see like the actor, like even the actors from just like day one auditions to them being so anxious about getting in, to seeing like closing night and them just bawling their eyes out, like odds are, and just seeing the growth. And like you may think that like, oh, like this person, like they're really good, and then they just keep blowing you away. Or this person, you're like, oh, this person's really shy.
What about what you did? What about how great you've done what you did? You know, I mean, they're good for the actors, and they get to bow and do all that kind of stuff. But you don't really get a bow in the booth that much, right?
No,
I mean,
we get
got
our
a little wave.
a little
I really like it. I think my favorite thing is getting to actually be able to watch the show. Because honestly, I think I like the tasks of an ASM more than I like the tasks of a stage manager.
Great. And do you think that that's, and because we're not going to talk about that, so you think it's good to work your way up to SM through ASM or
think
second
so,
ASM? Okay,
yeah.
so what does an ASM do then? Assistant stage
So
manager.
assistant stage manager basically it's there to make sure that the ASM or the SM is not overwhelmed. So you're taking on any extra tasks that the SM can't quite deal with right now. So sometimes that's the blocking notes, sometimes that's the line notes. It's also setting prop tables sometimes, which is where you have to take a plain 4x8 table or 2x4 table, and you tape out in like all these grids where every prop has to go, and you label all of them.
On both sides of the stage. And
Yep. And you have to make sure that they're on the right side of the stage, because if you know this actor needs a teacup and it's on stage right when they need it on stage left, what are they going to do?
But as you said, you loved watching the show, so as ASM, you don't get to watch
so that's
the show,
the
right?
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on. I mean, you can peek from the side of the curtain, but that's about it. So I really like stage managing because it's a treat for me to get to actually see the whole thing happen, and it's even more of a treat because I'm the one making it happen.
Yeah. But the ASM gets to be backstage, where the SM is up in the booth. So you enjoy that being with the actors?
Oh yeah,
Often
like there's always like the professionalism backstage, but then you also have like these little like fun moments where like a scene might be happening and like there's a dance number and you both are just dancing backstage. Like you get to
quietly, so the
quietly,
audience.
yes. You get to have like your little moments here and there with like the break from like if it's a really serious show, like you get to have like that backstage moment where you could breathe, relax, do whatever you got to do, and just get back on, do it again. And sometimes like the assistant stage manager is there to help with that.
Right.
Like that's also
And
another one of their hats too, is
Yeah,
to make
yeah.
sure people are okay, comfortable.
Yeah.
That if they need water, run and get them water. Like there's so much for an ASM
But
to do.
because the stage manager's up in the booth, you're the legs on the ground,
Yeah.
so to speak, backstage if anything's going on, or get things in the right place.
Yeah.
Make sure a prop is there. Sometimes even a sound effect happens.
Yeah.
You do all those kind of things.
And sometimes something completely out of the blue happens, like someone breaks a cup on stage, and now you have to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Here, I'll go grab the broom. You could be a character on stage right now. Can you go out and sweep this? Or you know, if sometimes you're as an ASM, you're in costume for the show. If you have to be on stage moving set pieces, they put you in a costume so that you blend in.
Right.
So,
So without the headset on. So it's really kind of a good stepping stone, and a second ASM is one removed from what we talked about is the second person in charge backstage. And so you're kind of there covering for the ASM, making sure things happen, but it's a great way to learn if you want to go into stage management.
Yes,
Or in another direction. Some people go, oh, that's great. I think I'll be a light board operator or a soundboard operator and not go into stage management. But both of you started with the ASMing.
Yeah, I actually started as a second ASM.
Cool.
And it was nice to be able to kind of almost shadow an ASM to see what really has to happen, because I can be a part of it, but I don't have to be stressed about I don't know a lot yet. So it was nice to have someone who could guide me through it.
And all of these are jobs in the professional theater.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? You can, everybody think actor, directors, but oh my gosh, I could be a second ASM, I could be an ASM, I could be an SM, a PSF, production stage managers, all these different things that when we think about theater, we forget this whole world exists to pursue, which you're heading into, and maybe even beyond that, because you're looking more generally, maybe I want to get into sound more or lighting more or something like that. So that's kind of cool. So what do you said it when we took the break, what did you say? A stage manager?
Stage management is leadership.
It's leadership.
It's even if like the show is not going as it should and things feel like everything is on fire.
We're talking about rehearsal, or are we talking about performance?
Both.
Okay.
Both. You are the one that keeps your cool, because this show will go on. It's like you have to be the problem solver in that moment, because especially during shows, the director's not there anymore. You kind of, keep it on track as much as you can, but you're the one that will have to come up with these like last minute ideas. If something,
whether it's even a costume mishap that you have to fix, or a light suddenly does something that it's not supposed to do, but you got to be there and you can't panic.
No.
You do no good if you're the panicker. You got to be the adult on
you
duty.
got to be cool.
You got to be cool. You got to be cool. So great. So if we were going to inspire young people to take up stage management, why would they even? Why even become a stage manager?
I think that's a really hard question. I think it's just working your way up and like having the joy of being backstage, seeing the root of like not even the groundwork, but like the roots of how a show and production gets built.
And you're a part of it.
And you're a part of it.
You're a part of that.
Yeah, I think for me at least, I love performance and I love theater, but I have terrible stage fright.
So this is
when I found out, oh my gosh, there's a way to be a part of it and not have to like have that panic of being on stage.
Don't have to learn lines.
Yeah. So for me, that was kind of why I got into it. Was just I can still be a big part of it without having to be the actor.
That's great. That's great. And there should be a real thrill at the end that you've done a great job.
Yeah.
You've called the show. And we haven't talked about that part and the performance part. We know you're up in the booth. We know that you get to see the show and you love being up in the show. But what the heck are you doing in that booth? What is your responsibility? You've got all your actors are there on time. The show's ready to start. Then you just sit back and.
Yeah, I feel like for stage management, it's really crazy all through rehearsals and tech week. Like you are just in the zone for pretty much the whole time. But then when the show actually goes up, it's like quiet. Because if you're doing your job right, everything's going smoothly. You're just checking boxes.
Great. And part of those boxes, what are the things you're doing up in that booth?
You got to call cues.
What does that mean?
So you have the lovely designers, the sound, lights, and if there's projections and other backstage things, follow spots, any effects, special effects on stage. You got to call all those cues, meaning you got to have what's called paper tech, where you sit down with all the designers. You have the script, which stage managers call their Bible, and you write down all the cues, which is when a effect has to occur. So like if it's sound or lights, you typically have like a way to put it down. So like 1A, or depending on which, if it's light or sound, what you write down, and you got to call them. Yeah. And you got to communicate with your light board operator, your sound board operator, everybody who's involved, to make sure that they know what's coming up.
And they don't do it if you don't call it.
Exactly. No.
That's the joy is that I think you sometimes forget as a stage manager. I called a great show. I did that.
Yep.
They're bowing up there. They're doing their hand up to the booth to thank you. But in fact, you did that. You made the light come on and the projection happen, and it wouldn't have done it had you not called those cues.
Yeah.
So there's that pride, I think, at the end of it all. There was one thing that Lila and I talked about the loneliness of a stage manager,
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing. Do you want to?
I will say, I feel like if you're a very social person and you're really good at like being involved with people and like maybe when things aren't going well, you can kind of de-escalate situation. ASM might be a great job for you because you have to be really diplomatic. You also have to be diplomatic as a stage manager, but you're a little more isolated from what's happening because it's almost like a parent at the playground. Like you are just there watching. And you can get involved sometimes when things are getting really crazy, and like you'll have little moments where you can interact with the cast. You know, you're their stage manager. They want you to like them. They want to have a good relationship with you, but they also have their own. The actors have their own thing that they're working on. So you know, you're in separate worlds almost. But yeah, you're watching them, you're observing, you're keeping notes of everything. I will say when you get into the booth, like if you have a board op that like I had 2 great board ops, and so it was still fun, and we got to banter.
You got the band, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You band together there. But I think you said something to me, Anthony, before about you being peers with these people and how to.
Yeah, there's always a line between friendship and professionalism, especially with stage managing, because you have to have those moments where you have to be hard on them. And there's moments where you have to be like a friend, because sometimes they just need a friend. Or if they're just not doing what they got to do, you got to be hard on them. And then they're like, but you're my friend.
Even just telling them.
Yeah.
It's like, well, get off my back. It's like, but you got the line wrong. I know, but
Yeah.
it's like, but hey, this is the professional part here that's going on here.
Yeah.
So it's and then there's that, they all get a break, and you're suddenly catching up on paperwork.
Yep.
So you get a 5 or 10 minute break in the rehearsal. It's like, and they're all running around and having a good time, and you're just scurrying to get all this stuff together. And it's like, and then break's over, and you're back to it.
Yeah.
So I think that adds to the loneliness of the job.
Yes.
There.
Yeah, you never stop until the show, and then that's when you get like very long. So at that point, honestly, sometimes I'm like, I don't know it. I must have to do something right now. There must be something I can do, but nope, because I set up a good show and everyone knows what they're doing.
And every show is different. I think we were talking about that too. Like every theater is different. The way you are expected to do certain things, you need to learn the culture of that theater or the school. But every play, every production is kind of different in its own way of having to call and what's needed, and you know, a cast of 3 as compared to a cast of 30 is a different kind of show to
very
call. Which do you prefer? What's the more?
You know, my first show was 12 and my second show was 15, so it wasn't a huge difference, but I will say one of them was a proscenium and the other was the most complicated in the round I have ever seen. The audience was split into 4 different quadrants and there was runways that ran all around the stage.
I mean, that's a whole, again, learning a different way to call this show.
Yeah.
And which you prefer? You've done big casts and small
I've done
casts.
mainly big casts, because Chico's Monsters, I think, was a cast of 24.
Right, and
Let's Just Try was a cast of 20. And I think I like bigger casts because I feel like there's so much more to do. Like
And
for
they're
smaller
definitely-
casts,
they're-
everybody like typically knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then, but bigger casts, you always have like that one person or like a group of people that like you got to make sure you got to connect with them more.
Totally. Yeah.
And I like that aspect so much. But like sometimes you just gotta have like your little group of people, your little cast.
And you do with that cast. So stage management is something of a career. So here in Bergen, we teach stage management. We allow people to ASM, second ASM, and work their way up to stage management. But it is a career choice and something you can major in with your AAS degree on campus and then move on from there. Guys, our episode is over with. So Anthony, thanks for suggesting we do this. Lila, thank you for being here.
Happy to be
and
here.
thank you for watching. And we'll see you again at BergenStages Television.